How would you define it? How would you explain this society? And
well, if you want to ask what America is, yeah, I mean, if you're asking what an American is, that to me that's very difficult to define that. If you're asking what America is is, I mean, obviously we could talk about many different definitions, but ultimately America is an experiment. It's called the New World because it was an attempt to break from the past. And the founding principles, and that's what's, I think, deeply extraordinary about the American experiment, is that the founding principles so perfectly articulated certain things that still ring universally true. It's been like that. I've had it for Obama is, I think, a profound embodiment of that truth, that there is a new culture emerging. It's a culture where a Luo tribesman from a small little village in Kenya, who grew up herding goats as a little boy, comes to America on a scholarship, marries and impregnates a woman whose son goes on to become president of the United States. Elected in a country that is predominantly white, and from a tribe that would have a very difficult time being elected president in Kenya, because the recent, a lot of people don't know this, but the recent riots in Kenya over the vice president was Luo. So you know, the Luo tribe is a weak tribe in Kenya. So the transcending tribalism and moving beyond that and recognizing that something's going on, and it's quite profound. So I think there is an emerging global culture that there are many people threatened by it. You know, I don't know what they, you know, people who've never studied Islam. I mean, you know, there are people that study Islam because they hate Islam. You know, there are people like that, and I could throw some names out there, but I won't. But there are people like that you know, it's not really Islamophobia, it's mis-Islami. You know, it's a mis-Islamic impulse. They just hate Islam. They don't fear it. And so they study it, and they study it looking to expose its faults, to find all its dark side, and those people do a lot of damage because they're not fair. When you read their books, and I've read their books, when you read their books, they take things out of context. They lie. Very often they're just flat out lies. And the Buchanans of the world that are trying to hold on to the death of the West. No, there's a rebirth. A new West is emerging. The old West will not die, but it's going to change. It's going to transform. And that's the nature of language. It's the nature of genetics. It's the nature of culture. Everything changes. That's the very nature of the world that we're in. And so trying to preserve what is precious from the past and yet relevant in the present to prepare us for the future, those are challenges. I know Akbar for a year. Oh. Yeah. In a lot of ways, the Muslim experience is challenging America, just like many immigrant experiences have in the past. The Asian experience, the Chinese coolies that built the railroad, recognize that racism in this country has not been about color solely. It's been about other things as well. So the Muslims are challenging that again, and it's good. It's good that they're doing it, and it's also good for the Muslims because resistance is what makes you stronger. You know, if you want to build your muscles, you have to have resistance. When there's no resistance, there's nothing gained. So I don't see this as necessarily a negative thing. It's a challenge. But obviously there are certain aspects to the post 9/11 world in America in particular that have challenged this country to the core. I don't think it is in any way, shape, or form warrants the type of response that has occurred. I don't. And I would much rather live with the potential of being blown up with my freedoms and civil liberties completely intact. I really would. I would just rather live with that possibility than to enter into this kind of Orwellian type of society where everybody's afraid of a bag being put down. I mean,
very impressive collection of books here are these. With my Pakistani background, how does this girls gone wild phenomena? How does that? How would you explain that?
There's a desire to escape the world, and Girls Gone Wild is a degraded expression of that desire, which is a desire for ecstasy, ecstasis, to get out of one's state, you know, to get out of the madness of the world by going mad. Quite hard for me to witness a real degradation of culture. I mean, I think popular culture has become so degraded, it's become almost unbearable for me to see it. And I don't have contempt for the people, you know, because I don't blame the individuals that make up the components of a degraded culture, because I think we're all, in essence, victims of the same forces at work. Everybody carries that extraordinary spark of the divine light that has been put in us, and we shouldn't forget that. So, you know, I mean, I can sit here like a increasingly middle-aged man and lament the loss of, you know, the past, but that's something people at my age start doing. So,
I want to conclude this with your reading from the Quranic verses there, so we can hear you reciting in Arabic.
Oh, from the, okay.
What is that, and how do you get it?
That is actually the sandal of the Prophet ﷺ. It's you know, his sandal, which is in the Topkapi Museum. That's the shape of the sandal, and there's a whole tradition of poems called the Na'liyat, the sandal poems. So I actually designed that and gave it to a Chinese calligrapher, so he did that for me. And then it has the verses in the Quran. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ عَزِيزٌ عَلَيْهِ مَا عَنِتُّمْ حَرِيصٌ عَلَيْكُمْ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَءُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ إِن تَوَلَّوْا فَقُلْ حَسْبِيَ اللَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُوَ عَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْتُ وَرَبُّ الْعَرْشِ الْعَظِيمِ, which is, there's come a messenger from among you who's merciful and compassionate towards you, and it grieves him what causes you to suffer.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay.